Hey, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is K Rev from K's Couch, and it's such an honor to be here this afternoon. We were with you this morning. I had a great interview with Mr. Fred and Lori Boko. We was talking a little bit about the cryptocurrency and VBit Technologies, is how VBit is actually positioning itself to be one of the leading companies to help retail Bitcoin mining machines to help you be a part of this huge phenomenon that's taking place. But listen, we are here this afternoon with an exclusive interview. Exclusive interview right now. Our first global interview with such an honorable person. I got a chance to meet and talk to Mr. Reinhard Woytek, and I am so excited to have him here. Listen, I want you guys to know before we get started with the interview that you got to know that you got to live your dreams, you got to live your life, and you have not or you cannot seek validation from anybody but yourself and the Most High. Your life is your life, and what you decide for yourself is very important. You know, we often talk about we want more for ourselves in the latter years of our day, but if we don't put any time or positiveness right now in what we want, what you desire will be meaningless because you haven't done the work. Now is the time you have to work while it's day, because when night comes, when you get older or you get in a place where you can't get things done, no man or yourself can't really work like you should. So take advantage of the time now. I'm excited today and to introduce such a great and honorable person. Call him Reiner. Listen, he was born in 1952 in Bavaria, Germany. He decided after school and military services to study agriculture at the Technical University of Munich. By becoming a agronomist, he had to tell me a little bit more about that. He has aspired to contribute to food security in the world. After internships in Germany, Brazil, the US, and Portugal, and graduating in 1979, he entered the field of developmental aid. He lived and worked 10 years in Tanzania, 4 in Botswana, and 3 in Zimbabwe, and 3 he's going to have to help me with this name when I come back, when he comes on, and the fourth country that he was in as an employee of the European Union and the World Bank in Germany companies, and as a freelance consultant. He was thus involved for almost 40 years in the professional field of agriculture. I'm excited to bring this young man on. So after our introductory music, listen, it's all going down on the couch to talk to Mr. Reiner out in Austria. Listen, it's happening on the couch, K's Couch. Hey, Reiner, what's going on, buddy?
Thank you, Kay. Kay is the right way to address you.
Absolutely. K Rev or K is fine. Usually
Kay,
on
Kay,
K's couch it'd be K Rev. Yeah. How you doing?
Kay, thank you for having me. It's been a lovely introduction. I liked what you said about managing your own life. That's not always easy, especially in a professional field. But anyway, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Listen, it's my pleasure. And so you got to help me with that fourth country that you were in. It started. So what is that?
The fourth country is Tajikistan, which is in the center, which is Central Asia. It's one of the former Soviet republics. And for most people who watch international news, it's the country north of Afghanistan.
Wow. So how was the experience there?
It was a very interesting experience. You have extremely lovely people. Some people say it's the most hospitable. Is that the right word? Hospitable people who are
Yeah.
most hospitable to foreigners and strangers in the world. It certainly is. It certainly is amazing. It's almost on the roof of the world. The average height is 3,000 meters, which I guess is something like 9,000 feet.
Wow.
And it's been quite an experience. I loved it there.
Really? I mean, I've seen that you, based on the bio, you've done a lot of, had a lot of experience internationally, and you've lived a pretty great and filling life. So, how does that feel to be at this stage of your life, relaxing, being with family, writing books? You was telling me the other day that you wrote a travel guide with, that was all German. But so how does it feel now to be at this place in your life where you created standards all through your working career? So how does it feel for yourself now? How do you feel now?
Well, the bad news, I don't feel bad about it. Doing not so. It's.
Awesome.
I mean, I started working quite early. When I grew up, we weren't really rich, so to speak. So I had to contribute very early on, and so my first Deutschmarks at the time I earned when I was 14, still in
Mm,
school, and or no, actually I was 12, so I had to
mm,
start working. So after over 50 years of working and schooling, I think it's okay to slow down a bit and
gotcha.
read and write a little bit. The book that I contributed to wasn't a travel book; it was about tourism in Africa, but it's
Tourism.
it's more academic than the travel guide. Maybe I should have written the travel guide instead. Would be read by more people.
Tourism in Africa. So, okay. Could you touch on that a bit? How could you say a little bit about it, about the tourism in the area?
Well,
Maybe touch it.
that book
Mhm.
deserves the Guinness Book entry as the worst timing for publishing a book. It came
Oh,
out the
wow.
day before it came out the day before the lockdown. So
I understand. I understand. I
it
understand.
was quite a bad timing. But of course, nobody would know. Well, speaking about tourism in Africa, as we might touch upon later, my last job was on natural resource management, and more specifically in sub-Saharan Africa, and even more specifically in southern Africa,
Mm,
on what is called transfrontier conservation areas, those
mhm,
areas where you have wildlife and flora that needs to be protected jointly by countries that work together on that. And one of the ways of protecting nature and wildlife is having people benefit from it, not just tourists, but also people living there. And as your listeners may know, um, the wild animals, usually live where poor people live, because if they weren't poor, they would have cities, and there wouldn't be much wildlife. And
right.
one of the challenges was making people benefit from the wildlife, and one of the approaches was bring tourists, and
Mm,
that is what we helped to do through infrastructure construction, but also through helping training guides, training rangers, things to create a better infrastructure. And one of the challenges, if I may continue for one more
mhm.
minute,
You can.
was
Yeah.
everybody, people watching National Geographic and all these channels about these things, you see usually European tourists or Western
Mm,
tourists coming to these places because it's not cheap to get there. But one of the things that we wanted to do, and we just started, is bringing more and more African tourists to that.
okay.
And
Okay.
so one of the things that we did was actually was a bit crazy. Did a motorcycle tour through 5 countries and through 5
Wow.
parks. So there was a
Wow.
was a and there was just one European among those 30 bikers that did that. It was a great thing to do.
Wow.
They were
So
all
how long did
bikers
it
from.
take you guys?
They were on the road, I think, 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay, that's not that long. I would have thought it would have been a little longer. So you guys they didn't make that many stops then.
Oh, they did make a few stops. I mean, it wasn't through all of it. Was through one particular park or transfrontier conservation area called Kavango Zambezi. And so when you are in the park, when you are in that area, the crossing borders is not that far.
Okay. 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 I was thinking it would have probably been a little longer. It would have taken a little longer to really cross a couple countries, but okay then.
Bikers don't go slow.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. I look forward to having my experience in the area at some point in time. But definitely I'm excited. So what made you, study agriculture? What made you study agriculture? What about agriculture intrigued you?
Well, one part was I grew up on a farm. It
Okay.
wasn't our own, but I grew up there. And as you know, being a German, we have a rather horrid history. And one of the things that we that we youngsters failed to get was answers from our parents. How could you let this happen? What
Mm-hmm.
happened between 1933 and 1945? And so we felt, a lot of my peers felt, we need to do something. Some
Mm-hmm.
went into politics, others went into all sorts of things. And I thought, okay, during those days, hunger was a big thing. And of course, what do you do against hunger? You grow crops, and who helps growing crops is an agriculturalist. And so I thought studying agriculture was the right thing. Now, fast forward 40 years, 50 years, kids still asking questions to their parent generations, and you find yourself in a similar difficult situation of giving a proper answer. So on that
Mm-hmm.
part, I probably failed.
No, I don't think you failed. I think you actually were supposed pursue. You were supposed to pursue, excuse me, what you were supposed to pursue. So I think it was something that you were supposed to do, and I don't think you failed. I think you was in a place to where that you needed to do what you needed to do in agriculture. So, do you feel like it was the right thing to do to study agriculture?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, from the academic point of view, it's one. Now I'm speaking pro domo. I know
That's
it's a
okay.
bit biased. It's a wonderful academic study because it's very broad. You study
Hmm.
natural sciences, you study economics, and you study social and political aspects. So that was very fascinating. And eventually, I went for the crop side. The European people call a crop scientist or a crop agriculturalist an agronomist, dealing with crops,
Right.
because I thought, okay, humans as well as livestock will need to eat plants, or even meat that we eat comes from livestock that eats plants. And so I thought that was the most sensible thing to do, and it was
Mm.
the right thing to do. I still think so, even from a job, because it was so broad. I could do a variety of things in my professional life.
Okay. Okay. So where does the difficulty lies in agriculture? So, is there any type of difficulty in studying or pursuing? Where's the difficulty in this?
You said 20 minutes interview, not 200. I think agriculture today is in a very difficult place
Mhm.
globally. At the one side, agriculture, especially the industrialized agriculture, is blamed for a lot of problems, starting from climate, global warming, the livestock issue, and the rice, and a lot of and the cutting down of forests for agriculture, for freeing land for agriculture production. At the same
Mhm.
time, we need to grow food for 12 billion people. By the end of this
Mhm.
century, we will have around 12 billion people.
Wow.
And that is a challenge. Currently, we are somewhere between 7 and 8. And the debate is going on, what's the best approach to do that? Some people say we should stop eat meat. Um, but those people forget that a significant amount of agricultural land that is, now if I say agriculture, I mean all land use, including the rangelands, etc. That's a European
Mhm.
thing. Um, uh, is not usable for crop farming. You have mountain slopes, you have difficult areas that are too dry, that are too wet, or so where you can't grow crops. And so we still have to balance things out in how we prepare food for the next generation. And that is where the challenge lies.
Well, how has a lot of this affected your career before you talk about the challenges, so how has this affected your career to a degree?
Well, the career wasn't straightforward, and I think very few careers these days are straightforward. My first job was actually indeed in agriculture in Tanzania. We did work in a district, or which would be kind of like 3-4 counties put together, where we help small farmers, to reduce the impact of overgrazing and erosion. That was a truly agricultural advisory agriculture thing. But later on, politics or policy felt that the problem doesn't lie in agricultural production, it lies in agricultural policies. So we need agricultural reform, we need the right economic incentives for farmers to produce, we need to have roads built. One of my bosses once said, the only agricultural project that works is a street or a road. And I think there's a lot of sense, because agriculture is transport. You need to transport the seed to the field. You need to transport the crop from the field to the barn or to the market. You have to transport the fertilizers. You have to transport the cattle. So there's always transport involved. So some say a road is the best project for agricultural development. It's oversimplification, but anyway, having come from the productive side of agriculture, I went into the policy side of things, and because people felt, we don't need you guys in the field. You go into the office and start writing concepts, and so that is what we did for a while. And so I think I should say the biggest impact on my professional life has been the global discourse on how development in poor countries should happen, and that steers what kind of jobs you do.
Okay. So you mentioned policies. What kind of policies are in place concerning agriculture?
Well, when I came to Africa first in 1981, most African countries had very strict. Some of them were leaning sort of socialist ways, but pretty much government-controlled policies, and not very market-oriented. And so one of the ideas was to increase farmers' incentives for them by giving them access to markets, local markets as well as international markets. I worked in coffee for a while, and structural changes actually helped getting farmers a bit more money into their pockets. I mean, farmers, as we all know, are on the very first end, on the very beginning of a long line of people involved in producing food or whatever is produced from agricultural products. And so they are those who get least out of it. That's everywhere the same. But life can be better if they have better choices, better environments, better markets, better support.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Life will work a lot better if we had those support systems in place and had the whole stream of life as it should be. So like, what are some of the challenges? You mentioned challenges before. Could you kind of adhere to
You
some
mean
of the
challenges to agriculture, or challenges to my career, or what?
Let's look at the challenges to the agriculture, and the agriculture sector. What are some of those challenges that could be?
Well, I've mentioned policies, of course, and agriculture in the US and Europe is totally different from agriculture in Africa. In Europe or in the US, you have 1 or 2% of the population working in agriculture in the fields. I mean, there's downstream, there's working people in food industries, etc. I'm not counting those, but those who produce crops and manage livestock, it's 1 to 2%. sometimes 3, but usually not more of the overall population. The rest works in industry and services. In Africa, in most African countries, you have 40, 50, 60, sometimes 80% of people living in and from agriculture.
Wow.
And and that is a challenge. This is a challenge because you don't have enough people in to work in the industrial and in the services sector, and at the same time your agricultural productivity is very low.
Wow.
The
Wow.
labor productivity of African farmers is a sixth or even less than that of and depending on mechanization of what an American farmer does, or a European farmer. And many of those work with hand tools, and some have maybe they may have 4 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres. The average farm size, I don't know the number in the US. It's certainly a lot bigger, but the average farm size in Germany is 60 hectares times 2.5. This is 150 acres.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
So and that gives a total, and that is a challenge, and we haven't managed to get out of that challenge yet. Getting more people out of, well, making agriculture more productive has been a challenge. We have failed on that one, and getting people out of agriculture. We have not totally failed because yields have grown in some parts of the world. India was a wheat importing country in 1970s. Now it's a wheat exporting country, but it's just not working as well in Africa as it does in India or Thailand, or even China is, even though they don't have enough food themselves, even China has improved their agriculture.
Oh man, I am definitely in awe at everything that you're telling me, and to have you here this afternoon.
Well, thank you.
And could you tell everybody where you are right now? I think I got it right. You're in Austria right now.
Yes, I'm in Austria, and when you reach the Austrian airport in Salzburg, there's a signboard at the luggage pickup that says Austria is Australia without the kangaroos.
That's amazing.
Because Austria is such a small country, very few people are Australia, kangaroo, but it's a country squeezed in between Italy, Germany in the north and in the south, and Czech Republic and Slovenia on the right. So Slovakia on the right, and Hungary on the southeast, Switzerland on the west.
Oh my God, that sounds great. You name about 3 countries that I really want to visit, and Switzerland is definitely one. And I'm definitely excited. I would like to know more about Austria, but I definitely am gracious to have connected with you today, and I really do enjoy our conversations that we've had, and also today. This is K's Couch first exclusive global interview, and get a chance to talk with you on our very first one, and we'll have you back. And I definitely will be staying connected with you. Before we go, is there anything that you would like to share with the audience to keep them encouraged, to let them know that you can also live a full life? You can kind of let everybody know a little bit from your wisdom of working in the EU, the World Bank and different places like that. Just kind of let us know a little bit of your wisdom.
Oh, my wisdom! There's always the assumption. There's always the assumption that old men or old people get wise, but it's maybe just foolishness. But or folly, I don't know. No, I mean, given what I started out and seeing what's happening on the streets and the unhappy youngsters, etc., it's obviously clear that they're not happy with what the parent generation has done. Now it's the right and And it's the right and maybe even the duty of youngsters to be unhappy with their parent generation, because that's how the world moves on. At the same time, we have to ask, I mean, what is it? I mean, the nice thing about being old is you have been young, but the youngsters haven't been old yet. So you have,
Right.
two sides of the, the two sides of the coin. But at the same time, if I look back, I think the most important thing for me choosing career path and life choices was being open-minded. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't always my choice. Sometimes I was pushed, but I think being open-minded and taking opportunities, being opportunistic in a positive sense, I think is what saved my life.
I love that. So we can't live life with a closed mind. The world is way too big for us to really be closed-minded into one space of time or maybe one sector of a city. I've met people that haven't even, traveled outside of their normal city before. And, that's, so I'm glad that you said that, that's a valuable nugget that somebody can live by that possibly needed to hear that. Be open-minded. A lot of opportunities come from just saying yes. And so that's definitely something that I will make sure that I take with me. But Reiner, you're an amazing young man, and I really appreciate you. Hey, listen, you are, man. Nothing gets old in life but clothes and shoes, man. That's something that my uncle shared with me. Nothing gets old but clothes and shoes. And so, Reiner, I really appreciate your perspective. I appreciate the experiences that you've had in life to get here and to talk to us about agriculture and how it is in Africa and how it is, where you are, and almost like globally. If it happens to one or affects one, yes, it might be a little bit different in one area, but everybody is kind of dealing with the same thing and the same deal. So thank you for hanging out with us today on the couch, man.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I loved it. You're a great triggerer of thoughts.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Rainer. I do. And so, Case Couch, listen, those who listen to the interview, those who come back and listen to the restream, I always say, love life and live love. You only have one life. So let's just enjoy that. And so, again, Rainer, thank you for hanging out with us. And everybody, be blessed. This week, we got a couple more impactful interviews. This Thursday, 10 a.m. We got one of the legendary Pace sisters, Miss Melanda. She will be promoting her book, talking about her book, Letters of Endearment. So I'm excited about that and a few other situations coming up next week. So listen, have a great day. And it always happens on the couch, Kay's Couch.